Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inside Podcast. I'm your host Seth, the CMO at Syte, and I'm joined once again by my co-host Mike, the CEO at Syte. Today we're excited to uncover some of the hidden gems in the digital marketing world. This episode is all about the best channels you're not using and why you should be using them to unlock the hidden potential in them. Many businesses stick to the tried and tested channels like Facebook, Google, and email. While these are effective, there are many other channels out there that can help you reach new audiences, engage more deeply with your current customers, overall drive more conversions. By the end of this episode, you'll have fresh ideas to diversify your marketing efforts and tap into new growth opportunities for your business. So grab your notebook, sit back, and let's dive into the best channels you're not using. There are so many channels that businesses choose to avoid. What are some of the big ones just off the bat? And then we'll jump into the specifics of each one.
So I think what we've been experimenting with, which I think is quite cool, and there's a lot of opportunity there, is not so much channels people choose to avoid, it's just they just don't think to even start with it for whatever reason. Either people are unaware of their potential, or they view them as channels that are too small based on the number of users that are there. But with low number of users, often come low amount of competition, and that's where all the magic or value is. And I think the three biggest channels that people don't touch, there's two other ones that I think are interesting, but the three biggest ones that people know about but don't touch are Bing, and I'll kind of go through why I think they are powerful now, where they maybe weren't used to be that interesting. But Bing, number one, YouTube Shorts, number two, and lastly, TikTok ads specifically. A lot of brands are on TikTok, a lot of brands are not on TikTok, but a lot of brands are on TikTok, but there are so few brands actually running campaign objective ad campaigns on TikTok where there's amazing value to be had there.
So the channels, okay, to kick things off, let's start with the first channel you mentioned. Bing being one of the other search engines other than Google. Google's normally the main one that everyone uses. And Bing really found its mark because about 2 to 3 years ago, Bing only had 3% of the market share. And at the moment, I think they're sitting at around 20% market share. So there's huge potential in advertising on Bing nowadays. And this is all because Bing has been almost at the forefront of implementing AI into their search engine right off the bat. And that's why so many people are jumping back on Bing, and it's so underutilized. And even at Syte, we're using it as another platform to start advertising on for our clients currently on Google, because Bing is so underutilized. So Mikey, why should someone just jump on Bing all of a sudden?
Well, so I think great intro, Seth, but I think particularly for the reasons you mentioned. So it used to be fairly relevant, call it 3% of users, as you mentioned, on Bing. And I think most of those users got there inadvertently or by mistake by clicking a link or mistyping something or misspelling something, and they realized they were on Bing. So therefore, most of the people on there were old users who didn't really know how the internet worked. But the magical master plan of Microsoft to compete with Google, how could anyone compete with Google as a search engine? Well, AI made that possible. And all of a sudden, this 20% has creeped up out of nowhere. Obviously, it's different for different geographies. But I think it will I don't know how much it will keep growing, but even 20% is a massive percentage of all the search out there. And what hasn't scaled at the same rate is the number of advertisers on Bing. So even at a fifth of the users, there's probably 1/30th of the amount of advertisers, which means obviously less competition, which in turn means much cheaper clicks, which in turn means much cheaper ROAS and CPL and so on and so on. So Bing, I think, is if you're doing Google ads and you're spending a decent money on Google ads and not reaching saturation, but getting to a point where it's becoming quite competitive and quite difficult to make some ROASs work, I think Bing is a must try. And one other element of Bing, which is magical, which you can't really do on Google, is because another part of Microsoft is LinkedIn, you actually have job title audiences in Bing as well. So where you can pretty much do a like-for-like campaign on Bing that you can do on Google. So you can copy shopping campaigns across, you can copy any campaigns, search campaigns. Literally, it's running Bing ads is almost identical to running Google ads. But the added feature, if you need it, you can get to job titles. So you can say, if I want to run these keywords, but I only want to run it to engineers as an example, you can do that because you have that LinkedIn
And
type
Google
data, which you
does,
don't have on Google.
yeah, and Google does to a certain extent. It does have that demographic targeting, but you're comparing the most enriched source of data, LinkedIn, where everyone is keeping it as relevant as possible because it's basically their inverted commas CV, which it isn't. You shouldn't be using LinkedIn like your CV, but we'll touch on that in a later podcast down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, you have affinity audiences Google, but you don't have job titled audiences. And that's the magic of Bing. Again,
And I think, yeah, and Microsoft really have realized this because they're making it as easy of a platform to jump on. You can literally copy all of your Google campaigns, and I wouldn't recommend just going copying and paste because Bing's got a different search and people are searching different things on different platforms. But Bing has made it so incredibly easy for you to go, okay, I'm running Google ads. Now I'm going to be running Bing ads. And
correct.
They're pretty much like, why not? Why not?
Correct. They know 100% of the people that are looking to run Bing ads have 100% of the time run Google ads. So they know they need to make that transition quite easy. So yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah. And then jumping into our next most underutilized and most ignored ugly stepchild of the short form content is YouTube Shorts, which is honestly the most powerful and underutilized. Even from like posting our shorts, we get the best results on YouTube Shorts, and it's because we can go after searches. We can literally say, and we can target all of our titles and our meta tags and our descriptions based on what people are searching in the search engine of YouTube. And this is the way that all of the other platforms are going. But YouTube is here, and YouTube is pushing your content more than anyone at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. People speak a lot about, we'll get to, I know, TikTok next, but people speak a lot about people using TikTok as a search engine. But sometimes they forget that YouTube was actually the OG of social search engines. It's forever been the second biggest search engine. And the magical part of YouTube Shorts, and we've learned this the hard way, is that people like to consume shorts. We know that across any platform. But the play that YouTube Shorts gives you is unbelievable. So you can post a video with no audience, and you can skyrocket in views instantly. Just because of how the algorithm works, which you can't do on YouTube itself, without the shorts component. And even other platforms like where you can do, that skyrocketing result. You can do that a little bit on TikTok, of course, and you can do that on Insta Reels. But I think YouTube is even easier than both of them. So I think for brands not on YouTube Shorts, they're really missing out.
Yeah, Mikey, would you say it's kind of fair? I know we often say that something is the predecessor, like TikTok is where Facebook used to be 10 years ago. But I think it's almost fair to say that YouTube Shorts is where TikTok was 2 years ago.
Yes, I think I've never said that, but I will continue. I will now only say that, but I think it makes no sense. I think, people have learned how to do short form content. Not everyone, but a lot of people have learned how to do short form content largely because of TikTok. And then they've copied and pasted that into Insta Reels. But the place they need to copy and paste that or even make it initially for is absolutely YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. And then the next platform I kind of want to segment into, and you kind of skipped this one, Mikey, but one of the biggest platforms that I have seen that people have ignored time and time again, and honestly, Mikey, we kind of ignore it a little bit, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the biggest platforms that push your content every single day. LinkedIn has almost, if you're looking at the stats of it, 9% of people engage on LinkedIn. Only 1% of people actually post on LinkedIn and actually create content. So LinkedIn, more than ever, is the platform that is pushing your content harder and further because they know that there are not enough people making content, so they have to get content out there. And now LinkedIn is making that even, or emphasizing that even further with their new advertising section of thought leadership pieces, where you can actually go and write, like you do, Mikey, your posts, and then amplify that almost as I guess you can say, a boost.
Yes. Yes, I think it's a magical thing. And you're right, I didn't mention it, but I was thinking about it. When you mentioned Microsoft and we kind of spoke about Bing, I was like, good point. We forgot to speak about LinkedIn. So I think that's really interesting. So I'll tell you the two parts of LinkedIn that I think are interesting for a lot of brands. So one, exactly as you mentioned, that thought leadership component, and one thing I think is important to keep in mind. I'm not sure your exact ratio is your percentage, but I have heard something similar to that before, where if you have 10% of people that are actually going to engage it in some way, or 9% of people that are going to engage with it in some way, most of the people that are actually seeing your content and actually absorbing your content are not making it visible that they are. So it doesn't really matter. Like, one, I don't think should be disheartened, and maybe I'm speaking to myself more than anyone else, but if your content gets 10 likes or 20 likes or 100 likes, think about all the people that are not liking it but are still seeing it, So I think LinkedIn is a hugely powerful place for that. And as you mentioned, like, I think the one thing people have struggled with, like, and you can see when people are trying to write for reach, and I think those, like, some posts you can get great reach and are not great posts. I think this boosting of the thought leadership part of it is really interesting, because you can actually write great content that's informational, that people like, but it might not be the most shareable content. This is a great solution for that you can write great content without worrying about shareability, and essentially thought leadership boost it and get it to a big audience.
Yeah. And then just another one on LinkedIn, just while I'm thinking about it now, another heavy underutilized part of LinkedIn is actually commenting on some of the bigger guys' stuff. If someone has an audience of 100,000 and you are writing an insightful comment, and it's Gary Vee kind of goes on and on about this in his latest book, about actually strategic comments that are almost as engaging and almost as information dense as the original post, that it could stand alone as itself underneath their post, underneath the main guy's post, and then you tap into their network. So just another little strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's actually the best way to grow on LinkedIn. It's a way, most guys don't do. Most guys just want to post. But the best way to get great views, great awareness, and your point across is to jump on other people's audiences and exactly like that, and take advantage of their posts and add something interesting to it. I think it's a great tactic.
Actually, a great example of this is the Lemlist team. I don't know if you guys, or just for a brief overview, Lemlist is a software company. They do email, they do LinkedIn, all of these different outreach platforms, and their team has grown. I think it was like a 600 times return. They got around about 1 million posts, or 1 million views. Sorry, not 1 million posts, 1 million views on their content when the founder was creating all of the content. And now they've got a team of 100, 200 people, and everyone every single day spends an hour posting on LinkedIn and commenting and engaging. And now I think they're over 200 million views a month, which is actually insane.
Wow, makes sense. Magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
And then finally, Mikey, into our next segment.
TikTok. Yeah, TikTok was so cool and so trendy, and people forgot about it. It's not really, but I think this is how I see TikTok. If you're running Google ads, you should be trying Bing ads, because they're like for like. The platform is the same platform, the search is the same searcher, and so on and so on. If you're running Facebook ads or Meta ads, whatever you want to call it, you should be running TikTok ads. And what you'll almost always find, if you're doing it right, whatever metric you're tracking for, so your leads or your sales, your CPL will almost definitely be lower on TikTok, and your CPA, your cost per purchase, cost per acquisition, will almost always be lower on TikTok. Particularly because of the competition factor. There's much less competition on TikTok. There's much less advertisers, and therefore everything's cheaper. It won't be like that forever, but while it is like that, it makes no sense not to jump on it. Oh, one more quick thing, which I think is an important part. I think why brands get nervous about it, because again, they know people running TikTok ads, or that want to run TikTok ads, have almost definitely run Facebook ads. They know people are coming from that platform to theirs. So they've made the platform extremely similar to set up campaigns on TikTok like they do on Facebook. The one thing which limits brands and your moat why brands don't jump on it straight away is obviously TikTok is video based. But if you have some ability, and it's so easy to create a TikTok video, if you have some ability to do it, you must definitely, or if you don't have some ability to do it, you must figure out a way how to do it, because the opportunity is too big to miss just because you may be scared about creating video.
Yeah. And I think that kind of segments into the final thing that I want to talk about, which is content. I think content nowadays is so underutilized as a platform. All of these platforms blew up: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook Reels, just all of these platforms grew up originally from organic posting. And that's how all of these platforms blew up. And organic is still one of the most underutilized platforms because you can go viral. Nowhere are you going to pay enough money. The cost of going viral compared to actually paying to go viral is massive. And if you can almost templatize and almost create a standard procedure to go viral, which is incredibly hard to do, by the way. It's not like a forward, just do this, just do this, just do this, and you're going to go viral. But it also kind of is. You can jump on trends. You can create videos with the right audio. You can do your keyword research, your SEO research behind the videos and see what people are searching. You can be on top of trends. Like, for example, the unfortunate attempted assassin of Donald Trump this weekend. So many people literally after that took advantage of that event and started using it to boost their brand. I'm not going to say it's the right thing to do, but it's trending now. And now they're actually out there.
Interesting. It might not be the right thing, might be the wrong thing,
Yeah.
No, so I think where it's interesting, and I think it's a good point you raise, that organic content used to be powerful in the early days of social, so on Facebook and Insta, because you used to get good play with organic content. Then organic content became almost a total waste of time because your reach shrunk to nothing. So even if you had a massive following, usually about 1% of your following only saw your post. All short form content changed that, because I think for three reasons. One is that all short form platforms, TikTok, Insta, YouTube Shorts, give short form content play, meaning that you can post something without any audience, and that isolated video can find a massive audience purely based on the algorithm, and therefore you can get amazing reach, and therefore organic is back in the game. So why not do it? Number two is why short form content took off in the first place is that it's real. Like, it's not brand panel beated and that type of stuff, and people like that, people engage with that, which is why that medium I think will forever be here. And then the third part, which I think is interesting, is that I think it's just human nature. People don't take the risk. So the mad thing is that there's no monetary risk to take it, to start creating short form content. But people, are nervous to create content for all the normal reasons, like the anxiety reasons. And secondly, people don't want to commit to something if they can't be sure it'll work. They'll rather, spend into Google, spend into Facebook because they've seen it work, and they don't want to put the time commitment or their time risk into creating content. And again, that's where the moat exists, because that's human nature, and human nature will dominate 99% of humans. You just got to be that 1% of the humans who overcome that human nature challenge. And I think that will also always be the case.
And that's a wrap on the Insight podcast for today. I hope you found that as insightful as we intended it to be. And I hope you went away with a few new tactics to go and actually target the right people on these underutilized platforms. That's it for today. I'll see you next week. Cheers.